Okay. Hi, I'm Jolene Montgomery, and I'd like to tell you about fundamentals for colts before you start them on the pattern, and just kind of in general. First of all, very basic, number one thing I think people forget about is just forward motion, forward motion, forward motion. In everything you do, it's forward motion. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about sending colts off to reining or cutting trainers to get started, and honestly, to me, that makes no sense at all because we don't ask them for the same things. You know, a cutter will stop their horse, back them up, and turn them over, and their crossover leg a lot of time will go behind. A reiner stands on that pivot foot and crosses around. So they can turn around from a standstill, but they can't turn around something totally different. So first thing, forward motion. Second thing, the crossover. Start with forward motion again. You're looking for your horse's outside front leg to cross over the front of the inside leg. There's a couple of different ways to achieve this. I tend to keep my horse's shoulders and neck square in front of them. It makes it easier for them to start. A lot of people, you know, want to get them all bent a lot with a lot of flexion. To me, I think that makes it harder for them. I really do. See how she's kind of looks like she's struggling? If you keep them straight in front of you, I feel like it's a lot easier. Obviously, flexion is very important, and to get control of these shoulders and move them over from one side to the other. Pretty simple movement, but they need to know this before you start them on the pattern. If I want to flex her and move her over to the right, I'll put my left leg on her, get her nose just a little bit to the left, and I bump out with the right rein. Some people, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Some people will lift up here, and that'll cause them to move over as well. I prefer to keep a steady hold with the inside rein, down low, and bump with the outside. I think that makes a more clear statement about what you're asking. If you're lifting, I think sometimes they don't know whether you want them to move over or turn in. But if you're just asking for their nose right here and bumping out, they know exactly what that means. Couple other basic things. There's hip control, which is important, but when you start going faster, I think the hip usually follows the horse, so it's not as important. This filly doesn't know how to move her hip very well. I haven't got into that yet. She doesn't have a lot of time. But to start to teach them to move their hip, I'll walk them forward, and it'll look like I'm gonna ask them to flex almost, but my outside rein is standing here as a barrier to block their shoulder from moving. Then I move my inside foot back and bump till they move that hip. And as you can see, she's still moving her shoulder a lot too. As time goes on, you can learn to block your front end with your reins and just ask them to move your hip. It's not very pretty yet, but I'll show you from behind. Inside leg. There you go. And those are just some of the few basic principles you need before you're going to start your horse on the pattern.